Hi, welcome to How to Theater with NC State University Theater. My name is Laura Parker. I am the costume shop manager and costume designer here at NC State University Theater. This semester, we are going to be working with a think and do model. So this week we are doing our think. So we're going to be demonstrating all about wigs today. And then this same time next week, if you are an NC State student, you can come directly into the costume shop and you can do with us. You can go ahead and get your hands on some wigs and we're gonna figure out how to style them. We're gonna set some curls. It's gonna be a grand old time. So if you're interested in registering for the do session of How to Wigs, go to our website at theater.arts.ncstate.edu and go ahead and register for our session next week. Today, we're going to be going over wigs. And I think what we're going to start off with is we are going to go over some tools and some basics. And then we're going to go over some basics on wig care, maintenance, and a little bit on how to style wigs. So what are wigs? That's a good place to start, right? Wigs are going to be these pieces of fake hair that we put on our head. And wigs are going to come in a wide variety of styles, and they're going to be made out of a wide variety of materials. From a materials perspective, the two main types of wigs that you're going to run across most commonly are going to be either synthetic fibers or natural fibers, human hair fibers. Synthetic fibers are going to be the most economical, and they're also going to be the most common. There are some wigs, there are some wig producers who do a mix of human hair and synthetic fibers. And then of course you can purchase full human hair wigs. So what's the difference between the two? Why would you want a synthetic wig versus a natural or a human hair wig? A synthetic wig is going to be less expensive, and they do come in a wide variety of colors. And what's really great about synthetic wigs is that they are going to hold their set, they're going to hold their style really, really, really well, because once you get that set into that synthetic hair, that it's not going anywhere. You can wash it and it's going to bounce right back to that original set with just a little bit of help. With a human hair wig, it is human hair and it's going to act just like human hair. So as soon as you wash that wig, or as soon as you kind of muss it up a little bit, that set, that style is going to fall right out. So you're going to have to kind of keep updating that on a regular basis in order to refresh your style and make sure that it looks consistent from show to show, or if you're wearing them on a daily basis from day to day. The downside of synthetic wigs is that you do have to take special precautions when you are styling them. Most synthetic wigs are not going to be able to take direct heat, like a curling iron or a flat iron, like you would on your natural hair. Because they're made out of synthetic fibers, most of them are going to melt if you put those high heat items directly onto the fibers of the wigs. There are some synthetic wigs that do take heat, like a curling iron or a flat iron, but you're going to have to read the tag on the wig and make sure that it says specifically that it can take that heat. If it does not specifically say that it can take heat set tools, you can assume that it will not take it, so you should not be using those heat set tools, your curling irons and your flat irons. With a natural wig or human hair wig, again, it's regular hair, it is human hair, so it will take those heat set items. So we're going to go through kind of mostly using synthetic wigs, since that's going to be what we primarily use in theater, honestly, mostly for economical reasons, but because they're really, really easy to wash and care and maintain and refresh the styles. So once you've determined what fibers you have on your wigs, next thing you need to determine is what style of wigs you have. And there are going to be two kind of main basic styles of wigs. There's going to be either a hard front wig or a lace front wig. I've got two examples here to kind of demonstrate what those look like. So Adrian wants to zoom in here on our lovely head model, our styrofoam head model. A hard front wig is going to have this hard edge right here where the hair is going to be coming kind of directly out of the fabric there on the front of the wig. So it has a very, very kind of solid, hard hairline there. So that's going to be your hard front wig. A lace front wig is going to be like our little friend here. And you can see there is a very, very fine layer of mesh right here at the hairline. And you can see how the hairs of the wig are kind of set into that mesh in this really naturalistic sort of hairline pattern. There's a gradation going back from the edge of that mesh. This mesh is the lace. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about a lace front wig. And what's really lovely about using lace front wigs is because the fibers of the wig are knotted into that lace in this really naturalistic pattern. Once you get this on the head properly, it actually reads as a natural hairline. So these look really, really lovely and really, really natural on stage. The lace front wigs are going to take a little more care and a little more maintenance. The lace tends to be very delicate and you can damage it really, really easily, but they look really, really nice and they look really, really natural. So this can be a really, really great wig to have in your wig toolbox. The other things that you may run across in theater are going to be wiglets and hair pieces. So wiglet is a super cute little name for these little wiglets. they're little hair pieces that when you get them to match either your actor's hair color, or if the actor is wearing a wig that you want to add a little more volume to, you can use these wiglets to add a little more volume to that as well. But this can be a really quick and easy way to update an actor's natural hair to a more period hairstyle, or to add more bounce and add more volume to the actor's natural hair. This is a little braided bun piece that goes straight on the back of the actor's head. And this is a really great way to very inexpensively and very easily use the actor's natural hair while still maintaining a period hairstyle, or adding a little bit of extra oomph or a little bit of extra bouncy bounce curls on the back of the actor's head. So these can be really great tools as well. What we do need to be careful about with these wigs and these wiglets is the hair pieces and the wiglets, I'm sorry, is to make sure that the color matches the actor's hair really, really closely. There's nothing more unappealing than seeing an actor wearing a hairpiece or a wiglet that does not match their natural hair color or their hair color. And it just reads as very fake, and it's almost worse than not having anything at all. So you want to make sure you're getting a good color match on that. All right, so let's go through some tools. What do you want to have in your wig toolbox? The first thing you're going to want to have is going to be a variety of styling tools. And so, as you can see, we're using primarily tools that you may have for your own hair care. We use these fine tooth combs and a thick tooth combs that have the rat tail ends on them. These are really great styling tools, especially once we get into setting curls. The wide tooth combs are really, really great to maintain wigs and to make sure that you have all of your tangles kind of taken out. So a variety of combs are going to be really, really handy. A large paddle brush like this is really handy, especially for longer wigs, or if you do a lot of period hairstyles, if you do 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s hairstyles. These paddle brushes are really great tools to brush out the curls and get a really good set on your period hairstyle. So a good paddle brush is going to go really far. And then these little slicker brushes with either boar bristles or synthetic bristles. These are really great for wig maintenance and for smoothing out all of those flyaways that we get both on our wigs and on our natural hair. So these are the primary styling tools that I like to keep in my kit. Next, what you're going to want to have is a variety of bobby pins and hair clips. Let me get those here. Open up a little box here. All right, so you're going to want to have bobby pins. Bobby pins come in two main sizes. We've got large kind of, what are these? What size are these? These are almost 3-inch bobby pins. They're really, really long and they're thicker gauge wire. And then we've got kind of your standard size bobby pin. If you said bobby pin, this is going to be what you would think of. It's just your regular kind of standard bobby pin. The larger ones tend to only come in the black. I think that you could special order them in different colors, but they're harder to find locally in anything but the black. The standard size bobby pins come in a variety of colors. So you're going to want to make sure if you are doing your own wigs or if you're a student actor or community theater actor, that you have bobby pins that match your personal hair color and the hair color of any wig that you're going to be wearing. If you are a wig designer or a costume designer and you're responsible for somebody who's going to be wearing wigs, having a variety of different colors of your standard bobby pins is going to be really, really helpful. I like to have the black ones. They come in gold, which works really well for redheads and for blondes. And then they come in silver, which works really well for individuals with gray or white hair. So those three colors are really going to take you a long way. The other types of clips that come in really, really handy are going to be our snap clips. And these are the ones that snap and they've got a little, you put the hair in there and then they snap closed like that. These are really great for hair prep before you put on a wig. And they can also be really good, useful for styling and for clipping the wig onto the actor's head to make sure it does not fall off. And these come again in a variety of sizes and colors. So those are super useful to have in your kit. A package of hair elastics can be really handy. These are the kind of teeny tiny ones that are clear, and these are very, very useful. I use these all the time for styling. They look teeny tiny, but they actually have a fair bit of stretch to them. You can get an awful lot of hair in them. They are plastic, so they do tend to kind of stick to hair. I don't like to use these on actual people hair, but they're really, really great for wigs. These get used quite a bit. And then I don't have any offhand, but also your standard kind of hair elastics, your braided hair elastics are going to be really useful for both wig prep to put the actor's hair underneath the wig cap, as well as styling your wigs as well. And then any other decorative sort of hair accessories you're going to want to have for your production, things like barrettes, hair bows, clips, bows, tiaras, sparkly things, any sort of decoration that you want to add onto a wig, you're going to want to have that in your kit as well. Once we get into actual styling the wigs, having duckbill clips. These are really great to kind of keep hair out of the way or to make sure that your curlers are kept in the proper place as the hair is setting. Those are really, really useful. And then pronged clips, which are a little flatter than our duckbill clips. They act about the same, but they're a little flatter and a little smaller. These again are really great for keeping the hair out of the way. If you're doing any sort of a pin curl, if you're doing a set wave, a 1920s hairstyle, these little double prong clips are super, super useful for that as well. So these are great to have in your personal kit. All right, the next thing we're going to want to have, oh, excuse me, while I lean, is going to be product. So when we're styling wigs, we want to make sure that we have product on hand that is going to be appropriate for the type of wig that we are styling. If we're styling a human hair wig, we can use human hair product. Whatever you might want to use on your personal hair, you can use on a human hair wig. You treat them very gently, but you can use those products. For synthetic wigs, you can use standard hairstyling products, but they tend to leave a residue on the synthetic wigs. They just tend to leave kind of this film. Yeah, Adrian's nodding and making faces at me. They just tend to leave kind of an icky, sticky residue, and it makes them really hard to manage. For washing your wigs, you're probably going to want to invest in a shampoo that is made specifically for synthetic hair. And they sell that through wig supply stores, hair supply stores. You can purchase them. If you live here in Raleigh, there are 1,012 wig supply stores all over the triangle, and you can purchase synthetic hair care products there. You can also purchase them online. Honestly, baby shampoo also works really, really well for synthetic hair wigs because it is so gentle and it's so fine. That's about the only non-synthetic shampoo that I think that I would use on wigs is baby shampoo. For styling, you're going to want to have a couple of different products on hand. You're going to need a spray for your wigs to set your style. And here you can either purchase a, there we go. You can either purchase a hairspray that is designed specifically for synthetic wigs. And this is my personal preference. The brand is kind of irrelevant, but a hairspray that is made specifically for synthetic hair, it's going to wash out a little easier, and it's going to be less sticky, and it's going to be less harsh. If you cannot find a synthetic hairspray, a less expensive standard hairspray like your Aquanet or your Rave, anything like that, is going to act in a similar fashion. It is going to be a little harder to wash out, and it is going to just be a little harsher on your wig because it is designed for natural hair as opposed to synthetic hair. So if you have access to it, if you can find it, I advise getting the actual synthetic hairspray. You're going to want to get a synthetic leave-in conditioner and Detangler. And they sell these again at your wig store, at your synthetic hair store, at your hair supply store. This is pomegranate. They come in a wide variety of scents or unscented, but this is a really great product to have on hand to comb out and to untangle your synthetic hair, especially for longer wigs, for longer synthetic hair. Anything that's going to be brushing up against your back, the back of your neck, your clothes, it does tend to tangle really, really easily, and it can mat kind of on the underneath, on the underside of the wig. So combing it out on a regular basis using the detangler and the conditioner is going to help minimize that matting and that tangling. And it's also going to make combing out those longer synthetic wigs much, much easier. The other thing you're going to want to have on hand is going to be a lock and set styling lotion. And this is going to be used when we're actually setting the style. If we are putting a style into the wig, if we are using curlers, if we are setting waves, anything where we want the style to actually set into the synthetic hair, this lock and set lotion is going to help assist us with that. You can style the wig without it, but the style is not going to hold as long as it would with it. So this is going to be a really, really useful product to have on hand. All right. Let's see. Next, you're going to want to have supplies to actually style your wig. So we have kind of the products. Next, you're going to need the stuff to actually put style onto the hair. So for that, we're going to be using things like rollers and curlers. We're going to be using grooming tape, and we're going to be using things like hair rats. So what is all this? First, our hair rats are these kind of, they're either foam. Let's see, I've got a foam one here. This one is foam with a wire on the inside, so it holds a specific shape, which is kind of fun. This is kind of a synthetic net that has been rolled up, a nylon net that's been rolled up with this elastic on it that makes it a little easier to attach to the head or to the wig. And basically, these are used to kind of bulk up the hair underneath the bulk up the body underneath the hair, underneath the wig. So if you're doing something like a bun, if you're doing a roll, an updo, if you're doing a bouffant hairstyle, if you're doing victory rolls or like a 1940s hairstyle, using rats to wrap the hair around to get those tubular shapes can really add a lot of bulk and can add a lot of body to either your personal hair or to your wig to help the style stay in place. And when we're designing wigs, these become especially useful because we don't want to rat or to purposely tangle the hair if we can avoid it, because we want to be able to keep using these wigs. And with the synthetic hair, the rats, the purposeful tangling tends to be pretty permanent. So this is going to help us add volume and body to the hair without damaging the wig. So these are really useful tools to have in our toolbox. Topstick or grooming tape is basically double-sided tape. This is sometimes referred to as wig tape. It is legit double-sided tape that you can use. There we go. You can use this at the temples, at the hairline, any place where a wig might be kind of sticking up or sticking away from the head, kind of funny. Sometimes wigs lose a little bit of their shape through the run of a production, or they just don't want to stay flat on the head for whatever reason. A little bit of double-sided tape is going to go a long way. The stuff comes in super, super handy. This is double-sided tape that is specifically designed for skin contact. If you're going to be using something besides this particular brand, I like this brand because it sticks really, really well. It's got a good thickness to it, but you can also use lingerie tape, any sort of wardrobe tape that is specifically designed for skin contact. You don't want to use double-sided tape that you have purchased for hanging up holiday decorations or something like that. Don't use duct tape. I've seen duct tape tricks on the internet. Please do not do that. Make sure that you're using something that is designed specifically for skin contact. You will thank yourself later. And then when we're styling, we're also going to be using curlers. And they come in lots of different styles. I don't have any foam rollers in my personal kit right here. I prefer to use either the metal spring ones. These have a nice flex to them. They've got a little springiness to them. And what I like about these is that you can pin directly through these, either using a curler pin like that, or actually using a straight pin like that. And since we're not dealing with people heads, we're dealing with foam heads, you can pin directly into the heads very, very easily. And that makes setting your curlers in place really nice. So I like using these. The other advantage of using these spring curlers with wigs is that when we get to the point where we're heat setting, where we're using steam to set our style, the steam is going to go through the curler a lot easier than it would be on a foam or these hard plastic ones. These hard plastic ones they're a little easier to use. They are solid plastic though. They do not have any sort of bend, any sort of give to them, but they do come with these little kind of self-contained clips that make them really, really easy to use. So these can be handy for use in kind of tight spaces, especially if you're trying to get someplace very small, or you're trying to get to the underside of the wig where you're not able to really pin into the head or pin into the hair very easily. These can be very handy as well. All right. Let's check the time. Okay, good. We're good. All right. So let's talk about how do we actually deal with these wigs. So I'm going to shift over here just a little bit. And you're going to have to excuse me as I kind of bounce back and forth. I'm not 1000% sure what I'm going to need, but we're going to work together. All right, so I'm going to shift over here so we can see what we're doing. All right, so let's pretend that we are an actor and it is first dress rehearsal and we're super excited and we've got our costume, and we've had our fitting and we're putting on our makeup, and then your designer sticks this wig in front of you and you're like, oh no, what do I do? How do I put this hair on my head? How do I manage this? Well, we went through how to actually put the wig on your head last semester. So go to our YouTube page and look up last semester's How to Theater Wigs, and we'll go over pin curls. We'll go over how to actually wear your hair underneath the wig and how to put the wig on. So check that out. But what we're going to talk about today is how do we actually take care of this thing as an actor? Because these little wigs, these pieces of hair that we put on our hair, you know, as an actor, you go out on stage and you're wearing this thing for 2.5, 3 hours. You're doing tap numbers in this. You are rolling around on the floor. These things take a lot of use and a lot of abuse. And no matter how careful your wig designer has been about setting the style, it's still going to look kind of like this by the time the show is over. And so what can you do as an actor to help preserve the style and make sure that you look your best every night? So the first thing we're going to do is talk about how do we hold our wigs. I've been manhandling this poor little wig right here. Don't do that. Don't do that. We're going to treat this wig really, really gently. When we are talking about how to take the wig off the stand, we don't want to hold it by, Adrian's just making faces at me now. We don't want to hold it by the hair. We don't want to grab it by the back of the head, because all that's going to do is it's going to destroy the hairstyle that your wig designer has worked so hard to put on your head. So what we're going to want to do is we're always going to want to slip our fingers underneath the hair and actually catch the fabric underneath. So we're going to do that along the back, and we're going to do that along the front. And as we pull the wig off, we're going to hold her from underneath like this. So we're going to try to avoid touching the hairstyle as much as possible as we're working with our wig. So that's step one. We're going to pretend that we have got to the end of the evening. We have done our show. We have taken our curtain call. We are back in the dressing room and we are ready to go meet our family who saw us opening night, and they're very excited to see us. So we're changing super, super fast. We need to slow down when we get to our wigs because we want to preserve the hairstyle so that the audience next week gets to, or tomorrow night gets to see you looking fresh. So you're going to take it off and you're going to very gently put it back on your head. Again, trying to avoid touching the hair as much as possible. And you want to make sure that when you're putting the wig back on the head, that we're not catching any of this hair underneath the fabric. Sometimes if you kind of plop it on the head like that, Adrian's making faces at me again, you kind of catch the hair underneath the fabric, and that can set the hair really, really awkwardly, and it's not going to look fresh the next day. So you want to make sure that you're setting it on the head. But no matter how careful we are, the wig is still going to, it's still going to take some wear and tear because, you know, you're doing your job, you're out there, you're acting. So as an actor, you can touch your wigs up and you can refresh them a little bit as long as you're careful and as long as you're gentle. Now we just need to remember this is hair. It's synthetic hair, but it's still hair. So we can take care of it and we can maintain it like we would our natural hair. So when you're putting your wig on the head, you want to make sure that you are feeling. Yeah, I did this backwards. There we go. You want to make sure that you are feeling where your little earpieces are. There's usually two little kind of tabs at the ears that go kind of where your little sideburns would be going. So you want to make sure that those are sitting on the head where they would be on your head. You're going to make sure that the back of the wig is centered on the back of the neck on your wig head. And here we can go ahead and we can kind of pin that into place just using a little straight pin. And then we can find our little ear tabs and we can stick our little standard pin through the ear tabs just to hold that into place. You can go straight through the wig, straight into the foam head. And then I'm usually going to put one in wherever the part is, just because it's a little easier to find. I like to use these really bright yellow or white plastic headed pins for this sort of thing, just because they're very easy to find. Even if they get kind of lost in the hair, you can still kind of feel where they are and they don't catch very easily. So once you've got your hair, your wig kind of pinned in place, now you can go ahead and you can just give her a little fresher up. And this is going to be where we're going to use our conditioner. Sorry, see, I knew I'd forget something. And our wig spray. So all we're going to do is we're going to treat this like our natural hair. So we're going to just kind of work the fibers back into place and try to knock all of these flyaways away, like so. And what's really great about the synthetic wigs is that once a style is set in them, it wants to go back to that style. So you can use your wide tooth combs, you can use your fingers, and you can kind of set that style back in place very, very gently with your fingers. And if you're doing it kind of a curly style like this, if you twist your fingers around these curls, they are going to want to pop back into place. These waves are going to want to pop back into place. So by just very gently, give her a little spray of the Detangler, give her a little scrunch. Just like our natural hair wigs do shed. So you will walk away with some hair on your fingers. Whenever I do wigs, I walk away with a lot of hair on my clothes. They do shed quite a bit. But you can see just by really kind of gently fluffing it up a little bit here, how suddenly she is looking a lot cleaner and is looking a lot nicer, right? At least I hope she is. Hard to tell from this angle. Yeah, Adrian's giving me the thumbs up. Adrian wouldn't lie to me. So let's get this curl right there. Yeah, that's looking much better. And then you can give her a little spritz with the hairspray. You want to be gentle with your hairspray. You don't want to spray it so that it's not going to move, because then it's not going to look natural. It's actually going to be harder to maintain the style if you put a whole ton of hairspray on it, and then you can't really freshen it up very, very easily. So you can see this took me, what, 5 minutes, if that, because the style is already set. The style is already there. We're just reminding the hair where it wants to be. And now, as an actor, my style is set for the next day. So that is something that every actor should feel empowered to do, to just give the style just a little once over. You don't want to restyle a wig. You never want to restyle a wig. If you have problems or if there are challenges with the wig, you talk to your costume designer or your wig designer. But to freshen up the style, just to tidy it up, that's something that everybody can do and everybody should be doing, because you want to look your best when you go out on stage. So that is super, super easy. So we're going to set her aside. And let's see what time it is. 5:10. 5:10. All right. Let's go over. Oh, please. We're improvising a little bit. Change my mind what I want to do. All right, so we talked a little bit earlier about hair wraps, about building up that fullness in the hair. There are some other tricks that we have in our toolbox that we can use to build up fullness and to build up style in our hair. So this is a 1960s style, kind of a beehive bouffant that I did for something. I honestly can't remember what, but I did this for something a number of years ago. And so this has that really, really lovely, very iconic 1960s shape to it. It's got the little flip here on the bottom. The trick with this particular wig is that this is not just one wig, this is two wigs. This is a technique that we use called stacking. And you see this a lot in both theater, and you also see it a lot for drag wigs. If you watch RuPaul's Drag Race or any other drag show, a lot of those really, really tall wigs are actually multiple wigs stacked and sewn together. So I'm not going to take this one fully apart, but I'm going to kind of flip it up here so you can see how it works. We've got, I don't know if you can see on the camera, the lighting might be kind of bad. We have a base wig, which is kind of a lighter ashy blonde here. And then we have this honey blonde here. And pull it up. And so this kind of, honestly, kind of ratty looking. This is a cheap kind of Party City costume, sort of 60s bouffant wig, which, you know, the fibers aren't very good, but it's got this great kind of bump already built into it. So taking a cheaper wig, a costume wig, especially for like these iconic sort of 1960s hairstyles, using that as our base, and then we've sewn the nicer wig on top here that is actually sewn into place here at the hairline. And you can see I've actually put a little bit of fluff on the inside of the second wig just to give this, again, a little more body. And that just sits right on top of that less expensive costume wig. And then I would tack that, or I would sew the bottom of this into place as well. I undid this earlier just to show you how the wig stacking works. But this is a really great way to get some extra body, get some extra volume to work with on these more stylized sort of wigs, while still making sure that they aren't too heavy. Using like a polyfoam. I've even seen some wig artists use things like plastic bags, like grocery bags, packing peanuts, those air bubble things that Amazon sends you in every box. Anything that's going to give you a little bit of extra volume underneath these wigs, while still making sure that we don't have a lot of weight, because wigs are already uncomfortable, they're already heavy. So anything that we can do to add lots of volume without actually adding a lot of weight onto the actor or onto the performer is really, really helpful. So that stacking thing is just a really, really great tool to have in your toolbox to either make a cheaper wig look more expensive or to add more volume like we've done here. All right, so we're going to put our bouffant aside here. And we're going to go over how to set some curlers into our wigs. So this is a similar style to that dark brown wig that we just freshened up a few minutes ago. So we can see this one, because it's been used so much. This is one of my favorite wigs. I use this one all the time. Since it's been used so much, a lot of the curl has actually fallen out. So our curls they're present, but they're not very well defined. So if I was going to be using this wig on an actor again, I would want to reset the style. And the style is present. It just needs a little bit of assistance. So this is going to be where we're going to be using our setting lotion that we talked about earlier. And we're going to be using some of our curlers and our pins. I knew I'd forget something. And I'm going to be using a thick rat tail comb and a thin rat tail comb. So when we are setting our curls, you want to work with the style that's already present, if there is a style. And we're going to be using setting papers. And these are just little pieces of very, very fine tissue paper like that. Hairstylists will use these for perms, for anything that we are using a curler for. It makes it a little easier to manipulate the ends of the hair, and it makes the ends of the hair go over the curler more smoothly. A lot of times if you just, not always, but it helps alleviate it at least. if we just took our hair like this and we just wrapped it around like this to kind of get these ends underneath, can be really challenging. And a lot of times these will fold over and bend under, and you get kind of a little bump at the end of your curl. Using the wrapping papers, we're encasing all of that in the paper, and that gives us a smoother edge. It gives us more control over those ends so that we get a much smoother wrap around the curler like that. So when we are setting our curls, you're going to want to follow the style either that you're trying to set into the wig or that is already present. And so placing the curlers on the head is honestly a very style specific sort of thing. There are lots of websites and books and tutorials out on the internet and out in the world about curl set patterns for period hairstyles. So if you're doing a 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s show, or you're trying to replicate one of those hairstyles, you're going to need to do some research about how the curlers are set on the head to make sure that you are able to get the hairstyle that you want. So there's not enough time today to go through how all of that works. So we're just going to go through the technique of actually how to put the curlers onto the head and what you do after that. So to put the curlers onto the head, we're going to start kind of at the top here. I like to work from the top, work my way down. Again, it depends how you position the curlers, kind of depends on the style that you're going for. But here, I'm going to use the rat tail, my little pointy end of the comb, and I'm going to partition out a section of hair. And you don't want to pull out too much, otherwise it won't set properly. We need to get some heat onto this. So we want to make sure that we're got just enough. You don't want to go over the width of your curler, so that may be a little on the, I grabbed a little too much there. And then you want to use your setting spray. Oh, there we go. Use our setting spray and just give that a little spritz. Comb that through. You don't need to soak it, you just want to dampen it. And then you're going to take your paper use that to control those ends as much as you can. And then you see here, we've got a nice clean edge here. This is curling under, it's not folding under. So that means we're good to go. And then you are going to wrap as tightly as you can. And the paper really, really helps with that. And here, we're gonna get that all the way down, flush onto the head. And with this particular wig, there is a plastic section right here that kind of mimics the scalp at the part. So in order to keep this in place, I'm actually going to use my straight pins. There we go, straight pins. Use my standard pins, and I'm going to pin directly through the curler, through that little plastic piece, and into the head. This is why I like to do wigs and not people hair, because you can't do that with people. So that is going to keep our curler nice and tight there. And as we are working our way down the head, you're just going to continue that in whatever curl pattern that is necessary in order to get the style that you want. So I'm just going to do a few more here just to demonstrate. So you're going to partition out your hair, give a little spritz with our setting lotion, comb that through so it's damp. Use our paper control that. And then wrap our curl nice and tight and into place. All right, and do one more here. Nope. And so you can see this is honestly a kind of time-consuming process. Setting wigs is it's not hard, but it's definitely time-consuming, and it definitely takes some practice. So that's why your wig designers really want you to be careful with your wigs if you are a performer, so that we can preserve the style as much as possible. Wrap that longer piece there. There we go. And so as we are setting the style, as we're setting these curls, the goal is to get them as tight as possible so that we get as much of a controlled curl as possible. So there we go. So we're going to pretend for time's sake that we have done this all over the entire head. Once that is done all over the entire head, I'm going to give it one more kind of spritz with our setting spray. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to heat set this in some form or fashion. And there are a couple of different ways that we can heat set a wig. We can use hot steam. And with that, you need to be careful because it is hot steam. You can burn yourself. But you can use a garment steamer, you can use a wig steamer, anything that's going to be creating some sort of reliable hot steam to steam set these curls into place. And then you can let that air dry overnight to make sure that they are bone dry before you take them out. And that action of the steam and the heat is going to work with the synthetic fiber to set these curls in place so that when you take these curlers out, you have the style that you want. Another option is going to be using either a hair bonnet or a hair hood, a hair dryer hood. Like if you've gone to the hairdresser and you've had your hair colored, you've sat under that big kind of spacey looking hood that blows air all around you. You can use those to heat set to dry wigs as well. Hair bonnets are similar to that. They're kind of an older technology, but they're the big plastic bonnets that shoot hot air up into the bonnet and kind of blows up like a balloon. You can use those as well. Or you can use a wig dryer or a wig oven. And that's going to be either a cardboard or a wooden box that has a, there are lots of directions on the internet about how to make these at home using a cardboard box and an old hair dryer, where it literally you just encase the wig in a cardboard box, you kind of cut out a hole in the back, you stick the hair dryer in there, and it will on low heat, low air, and it will very gently dry it out. You can also purchase professional versions of those, but they tend to be very expensive. So most people actually just use the cardboard box version. But in any case, you want to get heat onto this in some form or fashion. So steam is a really popular method. Using a bonnet hair dryer is a really popular method. Using some sort of a overhead hair dryer is a really popular method, but that heat is going to set this synthetic fiber in place. Once that synthetic fiber is set in place, the style is not going to go anywhere, even after you wash it. in order to change the style, you would have to reheat set it into something different. So a lot of the synthetic wigs that you purchase come preheat set styled, and all we do is either update or refresh them as opposed to completely changing the style. You can also purchase synthetic wigs that are just very long straight wigs and cut and style them to your choosing. So those are kind of your options. But this is going to really go a long way to help your wig stay clean and fresh and help you refresh it for either your personal use or for stage use. All right, so the last thing I think we're going to talk about is go back to our lace front wig. So the two wigs that we have dealt with so far have been our hard front wigs. So we've been able to kind of manipulate them, shall we say. With our lace front wigs, if you remember, these are a little more delicate. We want to make sure that we are protecting this lace here on the front. So before we actually start styling this wig, we want to make sure that we are holding this lace down so that when we're styling it, we're not pulling, we're not tugging on it, and we're not distorting this lace. So in order to do that, we're going to set this wig onto our little head here a little differently. So here, we're going to use a little piece of twill tape, a little piece of fabric tape. You can use ribbon, anything that's going to stretch a little bit and have a little bit of a curve to it. And we're going to put that directly over that lace. And this is just going to hold this in place and it's going to protect it. And so this is also known as blocking the wig. And this helps us manipulate this hairline into where we want it to be, and it helps us protect that lace. And on this one, lace ends at those ear points, so we don't have to go any further than that. But you can see I am completely covering up this lace here. And so this gives our wig a nice solid base to kind of hold on to as we do the styling. And it protects as well. There we go. And then same thing as with our other two wigs, want to kind of feel towards the back there. Put a pin in the back just so that does not move around. And now you can see I can give that a pretty excuse me, pretty solid tug here, and it's not going anywhere. And that lace is still going to be nice and protected. So just kind of get that out of the way. And so for this one, we're not going to really do any styling on this. I just want to show you about how the back of there, we talked about it getting a little matted, about getting a little tangly. This is a longer wig, and I've actually brushed this one out quite a bit, and it still just kind of gets a little tangly because these longer wigs do. So we're going to use this as an example of using our conditioning spray just to kind of refresh her. So I like to work it through with my fingers first, just to kind of get the spray into the fibers if I can. It's easier with straight and wavy wigs. It's a little more challenging with curlier wigs. For longer wigs, if you have access to a wig stand where the wig is actually not going to be hitting the table. That can be really helpful as well. I do not have one of those, but. And then when we're brushing these out, we want to protect the fibers as much as possible. We don't want to pull the fibers out. So I'm typically going to hold the top of the wig with my hand just to make sure that I'm not accidentally pulling out any fibers unnecessarily. And you can see how the conditioning spray plus the big paddle brush actually give this a really nice finish very, very quickly. Like so. So the point of visiting this wig is, again, to make sure when we are styling our lace front wigs, we are protecting that lace by blocking it down into place with a ribbon or a twill tape to make sure that we're not distorting that hairline. All right, and that is all I have for you today. Do we have any questions? All right, well, if we do not have any questions, please go ahead and visit our website. Adrienne posted that in the chat a little earlier. We've got theater.arts.ncsu.edu. You have access to all of last semester's videos, including our previous video on wigs. And as always, feel free to email me if you have any questions. Please make sure you sign up to come and do the do part of Think and Do on next Tuesday, and we'll have a chance to actually sit down and play with some wigs. You'll be able to get your hands on some hair. We'll try setting some curls. We will brush a lot of hair. We'll pretend that we're 5 years old and we have our fake doll head that we can do their hair. It's a lot of fun. So please join us and have a great day. Thank you.